Coach.
Started and on to your questions.
Okay, obviously, a great football game this past Saturday. As I said after the game, I was proud of the guys for the effort and all the things that they brought forth, the resiliency during the game. At the same time, we made key mistakes on all three phases that didn't allow us to win the game. So we started this morning working to correct those, try to get better for UCLA. Really an excellent, talented football team that's had a really, really tough schedule, playing their best football of late. So we have our work cut out for us. So we'll try to make the improvements from the Ohio State game to the UCLA game the same way we did from Indiana to Ohio State. So with that, I'll see what questions you guys have.
Coach, you mentioned after the game on Saturday, you felt like it was the first time, felt the championship mindset in the locker room. What kind of intangibles go into that, and how do you kind of instill that same mindset for the rest of the year?
It's really hard to play with the confidence to understand that, hey, if I don't make mistakes, I'll win. At the same time, play without being afraid of making mistakes. So you have to have this fearless part of you that runs right up to the edge, and you're willing to go over the edge. You're willing to put yourself at risk and be vulnerable to failure. That's the only way to actually be successful. And so saw a bunch of guys that just wanted to go back out and keep playing. And when I said that, there's been lots of times I've seen glimpses of it. I just saw a whole team united in that moment. So I think it came from the players, and to them it's a real credit.
Expect to have Ramir or Tommy back this week?
I don't know Tommy. Ramir's back. He'll practice tomorrow.
We hadn't seen Dylan scramble a whole bunch this season until that game. He had mentioned that you guys saw maybe something on film, but he also mentioned that there was a kind of a focus on him doing that in practice. Is that something that he just added to his repertoire this weekend? I mean, it looked pretty good when he did it.
Yeah, I think one of the key things from Dylan is he can do it, right? He has, he can do it, and he has the ability to scramble and look down the field, but then also take advantage and run. I think one of the really cool things I'm having a chance to experience with him is watching him grow each week. I think in the Indiana game, there was a play where he started to scramble and stopped and threw it back. And as I watched the game with him, he was like, I should have run it there. And I don't even know if that's right or not, but that's what he took away from it. So I think he, every week, is trying to find 1, 2, 3 things to improve upon. We heard Coach Day's press conference last week, and we heard him talk about why, when I watch their defense, I think it's, they look like a big-time defense. They were taking a lot of questions about why aren't about their defense, and he talked about doing some different things, and we were all kind of like, you play a team coming off a bye, it's like you better be ready for anything to come out. There was way more man-free pressure. Usually, Larry Johnson defenses is 4-man rush and hey, let's go eat. There was way more pressure, and so part of that was him navigating that, recognizing that in the game. But when you bring man-free pressure, if you pick them all up, there's no one for the quarterback. And so he got out and he took off and ran. And to me, it's like Dylan's got like an algorithm in his brain, and so every time you add something to it, it's like, hey, I can do this against this. So he added it. So in terms of during practice, I just think he's always trying to improve, get better.
From the UTEP game until the last drive against Ohio State.
Better and better and better. So much of that game was, hey, getting the right play here, getting the right play there. You think about, you're a freshman quarterback. You go out in front of 100,000 people, all of whom have a feeling about you because maybe you were once committed there. Another one of your freshmen drops the opening kickoff return. You start with the ball on the 8-yard line. You bobble the opening kickoff. And what I loved about what Dylan did was he just settled down, right? He gave us chances. If you go back over the last 4 games and you calculate in all the defensive pass interference yardage we've gotten because we throw so many go balls, that would add into kind of what he's done passing game wise. But I think the things that he sees, the things that he's improving upon, this is there's no better teacher than experience. I think he's getting a ton of experience, and they threw a lot of things at him this week. Rutgers threw a lot of things at him. They threw a lot of things at him this week, though, more than he's seen in the past. And I thought he adjusted and handled it really well.
He's clearly shown that he has the ability to drop those balls in on some of those lofted throws. On the couple that at least the one to Banks that he missed. What kind of discussions have you had with him, or have you heard him have in being able to hit those, and what leads to that being fixing that?
Yeah, I think when you look at that, you're talking about the play, the wheel route down the sideline, the rub route down the sideline. I think that was a play, and he could probably speak to it better tomorrow. I think that was a play where, they're bringing all that pressure, like they're bearing down on you. The Wolves are at the door, like because he came out, he saw 3-over-3 man, he recognized the leverage, he checked to that. That wasn't a call. That's an option he has. He checked to it, and I think he just sped up and said, "Hey, I got it," and let it rip, and so just missed the throw. So part of this teaching is is going back and looking at all the things you do well. He has the ability to go back and look at all the things he does well, and the things you do well should give you confidence. The things you don't do well, that's what spurs you forward. And so, he missed that throw, and then just kind of like a why. Like, hey, why did you miss it? Was it bad mechanics? Was it that you sped up because you saw these things and you knew you had a touchdown, you want to get the ball out of your hand? So when I watch the game with him, I watch the game with him usually in a different light, kind of as the head coach. Glenn's going to do all the football stuff. But for me, it's always, hey, here's these 6, 7, 8 plays. Why did they happen? Does that make sense? And so I'll let him tell you, his thoughts on it, because but to me, I just think, you have people coming at you, you see him open, he knows what's going to happen a lot of times before it happens, and sometimes that anticipation leads you to hurry. And I thought he didn't hurry.
How do you think Dante ran it, and did you find some things in the run game in the second half that you liked that maybe you can push forward?
Yeah, it goes back to what I said last week. When people don't really blitz us and pressure us, we're a good running team. We struggle when people pressure us. Dylan did a good job of when they weren't pressuring us, getting to the right run. We ran some wham plays and some trap plays, which are really good plays. We got the ball to the second level. We need at some point one of these plays to go for 80. And I'm not throwing anyone at it. It's just like that's what we're working on every day. We're working on constantly. Now, Dante, he's a big back. He's going to punish you, right? And then the Ramirez and Emmets come in and they hopefully make you miss and take it further. But I thought in many ways there were some really good things in there in the plan. And then part of it is then when they do pressure you, you're throwing those fades, you're throwing those go balls, you're trying to take advantage of man coverage, hoping to hit them. And, we hit some. We got some pass interference and extended drives on others.
Matt, you received a statement back from the Big Ten on an officiating call on the Emmett Johnson run. I mean, just what were your conversations like with the league and Troy with the league just over the last 24 hours?
Well, I'll first say this. I commend the league for putting out a statement. The worst thing I can do is get up here when I'm trying to get our team to turn forward to UCLA and be talking about, the calls that went against us in a loss. I think that's very forward thinking of, Commissioner Petiti and of Bill Carollo, who's the head of officiating. And I think it's what should be done. We all just want transparency in everything, right? Hey, I come here, you guys ask me what happened on this play, what happened on that play, right? And to do my best to be transparent and answer them. So I appreciate the statement. That was a game, you guys hear us talk about situational football. We're trying to master the last drive of the half, the last drive of the game. When you have one timeout and you think it's a spot, it just makes it hard to coach, right? So that was difficult, and they addressed it. And that's really all I want. I will say this, I think one of the hardest jobs in the world right now is to be an official. I grew up in an era when I played college football. I stood next to Coach Paterno. The officials went out there. They had their whistles. They threw their flags. There weren't 52 camera angles because every game's on, national TV. There weren't, they threw the flag and you live with it, right? And, Coach Paterno would yell at the officials and, just kind of that's how football was. And now, now you in a world where, now we have instant replay. And the first instant replay was, to overturn the egregious stuff. And now it's more, now we can fix things. Like last week there was 3 seconds on the clock and all of a sudden, now there was 6 seconds against Indiana. So now as an official, when I'm calling the game on controversial calls as if, well, what happens if it does get overturned? So they go with, if it's close to being a fumble, they think the guy's down. They might, they're kind of instructed to call it a fumble so that the play continues and then replay can overturn it. But replay, if it's close, will go with the call that stood, which even though that might not be what the official thought. So the amount of things that must be in those guys' heads, God bless them, and then there are 100,000 people, and they're running backwards trying to say, is it DPI, is it OPI, right? Now, it used to be the officials have to go over and talk to each other. Now they have a microphone, and they're talking to each other during the game, and they're confirming things, and it just, I feel for them, so I'm never going to get up here and complain about judgment calls. That's not my thing. I've been upset, or I've talked about really replay. Like last year, we had 3 replays that the next day they said, hey, replay was wrong. That's hard for me, right? And it used to be replay was in your own building. You'd see the replay official before the game. He was going to go up and make the call. Now replay goes off to a central site somewhere, and it's probably the best system in the world. I just, I advocate for the players. I advocate for the coaches. I'm also going to advocate for the 8 guys out there calling the game. I'm going to sit there and give them my opinion at times. I never cross the line. I do want to say this because my daughters and, I want every person in Norfolk and Tacoma and everywhere in the state. Both times I've gotten a flag this year, the next day they said never should have been a flag. So I don't disrespect officials. I stay on the field. I coach the way I've coached the last 12 years, aggressive, but defended, and no one on my sideline talks to the officials. Officials will always tell you we're disciplined. So I appreciate the statement, but I do want to say it must be really hard to be out there making those calls. And there was a really controversial OPI in the Ohio State-Oregon game, right? And they called offensive pass interference. And so what ends up happening is over the next couple of weeks, the officials, there's all these points of emphasis and all this stuff, and they're talking about OPI, and they're talking about OPI, and then all of a sudden we show up, and we get 2 OPIs, on the last drive of the half and on the last drive of the game. Now, you guys have watched this. I don't know how many OPIs we've had this year, offensive pass interference. But these points of emphasis, that kind of hit you each week, something happens and we change the kickoff return mechanics. Like, as a coach, I can't change what an 18-year-old does or a 22-year-old does on 3 days' notice. We went through camp. We go through all the officiating training. Officials come to practice. We're told to do things a certain way. And then as the season goes on, as things happen, man, the officials have to adjust. Well, we have to adjust. And all of a sudden you get into a game like this and all this stuff happens. So I appreciate the transparency. I do want to make sure everyone understands the way where I stand, though. I advocate for the officials. I think we should let them call the game, and it shouldn't be all this. It shouldn't change as much as it does based upon this and that. We should just let them call the games and live with the result, right? Like we live with the players' result. So I appreciate that. Some tough things went against us. We've had replay go against us. We've had my penalties go against us. I don't want any more apologies on Sunday. Like, it can't happen against UCLA. It can't happen against Iowa. These things can't happen moving forward. And so I'm very forward thinking. I appreciate, Bill. I appreciate Tony. I appreciate Troy. I appreciate everybody. But it can't keep happening to us. It needs to be fair. And that's not about the guys making judgment calls. They got a tough job. I just want to tell us what the rules are, and we'll kind of go from there. And so that's my take. I hope it's okay that I say that. But we're not going to sit here and whine about whether it was a hold or not. During the game, I'm going to yell when they false started. I yelled, "Hey, that's a false start!" Like that's a not hold, no hold. That's a false start. But then the play is over. We play the next play, and we got to play better. Before we can worry about the officials, we need to worry about ourselves.
Had a lot of success with those kids from Miami. We haven't talked as much about Willis, but he played some quality snaps for you. How have you seen him progress as the season has gone along?
Yeah, Willis is earning it. I think it's the biggest thing. Like, he's so talented. He's earning it with his preparation and what he does in practice. It's a hard position because you're really playing 3 or 4 positions. Sometimes you're a DN, sometimes you're an outside linebacker, sometimes you're a will backer. And I think he's got great mentorship in that room from MJ. And I thought, we got production out of him, which was awesome. So, his snaps will continue to go up. And the biggest thing is, like I said, I'm proud of him because he's earning them. He's earning the snaps. Like, it's not just his talent, it's his production, which comes from what he does in practice. I've been really pleased with him in practice. And I think you'll see a lot more of him moving forward.
You guys are 2/3 of the way through the season. Season goes really fast, right? But if you could maybe summarize what you think you guys are really good at on both sides of the ball, and maybe special teams too, do you have a sense of that, or is it still a little bit in flux based on the last 3 or 4 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I think we faced 2 top 10 teams the last 2 weeks, right? And it's way, as I said after the game, it's way easier to focus on what we're not good at than what we are good at. I think for me the best thing to do is just focus on UCLA right now. Because I think honestly, Sam, to be quite honest, I think this week will tell us where we are coming off those last 2 weeks. Then when we hit the next bye, I think we can see kind of, hey, down this 3-game stretch, everything that we do is, we talk to our guys about, hey, football and college football is about November, December, and January, right? Like, we beat Colorado and everyone left Colorado for dead, and Colorado's alive and kicking, man. They're doing a great job, right? And when we played them, we were like, man, they're pretty good on defense, and they're pretty good here. So, we've been through all these good things, these bad things, these tough moments, these hard moments, And here we are. We have 4 games left. Games that in the preseason, probably a lot of people thought, oh, they'll be underdogs in these games. They'll struggle to beat these teams. We'll find out. We'll go play them. I will say, I think our team, our mindset, we learned a lot the last 2 weeks, right? Like we learned a lot the last 2 weeks, and now we have to carry it forward against UCLA, then get to a bye week, and then play 3 more. So, the same intensity we had last week because we were embarrassed, 56-7. We have to have that same intensity this week. And that's when you hear me talk about process and all those things. Sometimes when players are young, they think I'm saying, hey, it's okay to lose, just do your best. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, like Coach Paterno said, wake up every day running scared. All I focus on in our offices, Sam, is what aren't we good at? Not what we're good at. You know what I mean? Like in there, I'm like, hey, we got to fix this. We got to fix that. We got to fix this. You just hope over time they get less and less and less. As it pertains to UCLA, they're going to challenge you with their run defense. Like they are big and physical and athletic on defense, and teams that normally run the ball really well struggle to run it against them, and then they pressure you and play man. All the things that at times have bothered us. So this is a real opportunity for us this week to show that we fix some of those things. And then offensively they are a sophisticated. It's a sophisticated offense that can run the football, but really can throw it as well with a sophisticated NFL passing offense. So for all the good things we did, we gave up 3 explosive plays in the passing game last week. We'll have to show that we can handle that. And then special teams wise, we're making such great growth in some areas, and then all of a sudden something pops up like fielding kickoff returns all of a sudden. So we have to continue to find a way to make plays in those areas. Johnny kept us in the game. So just keep finding the next thing to improve. So that probably doesn't necessarily answer your question, but I think the best thing that we do as a team is we improve. We get better at the things that are beating us. The guys came in today like very focused on what didn't we do as opposed to what did we do.
Loaded question, but how much better do you have to get in this screen game?
I'll be very humble when I say this. I completely understand why people are frustrated, right? Completely, At the same time, what I would say is you go block that front without throwing a couple screens and tell me, okay? I mean, they're dominant, absolutely dominant. There's some kids that feel really bad on our team because they see the heat that Sat's taking or I'm taking or whoever, and they know that they had a missed assignment. If they had blocked the man-to-man defender, the ball would have gone for about 50. So, that being said, you have some things built in, like, hey, we're running this play. If they bring 0 blitz, we're throwing a screen. That's what kind of most people do, and they threw the screen, and we just didn't make the block or whatever. So we look at everything like we have to be better as coaches. Like it always starts with us. There's one thing you're not allowed to do in our building. You can never say the players weren't good enough. You can never say, oh, so-and-so, he's not good enough. So, yeah, it wasn't good enough. The screen game wasn't good enough, To have 2 on the final drive, I can understand why people would be frustrated about that. We came out and threw the go ball to Jamal and got the offense. He caught it. And we have the ball on the 45-yard line. We got the offensive pass interference. We came out. We threw the backside in cut versus cover 2. The targeting play. We get the ball. They came out. They played man. We went to the screen. So I wish we could go back on those things. But yeah, I mean the screen game hasn't been terrible for us, but it was not very good for us in that game. And it's just one of those things come out of the game as coaches, and you're like, hey, we really thought going into that game we were going to need to be able to screen them because of their pass rush. Even plays like like we were putting Wood in motion and running as fast as we could and blocking their DN and handing the Bonner and handing the ball off. He missed one in a crucial time, but yet they weren't quite running up the field and rushing us as much as they were because they had to play the screens. They had to so much of football to me is complementary. There's things I really regret from that game. Some of the play calls we called, some of the defenses we called, but that's ball, man. So I don't know if that answers the question, but it wasn't good enough. It hurt us in crucial situations. We got to be better. We went into it with a plan, thinking we needed to be able to do that, and in the key moments at the end of the game, it didn't work out.
How much do you make a big deal about 6 wins? I mean, you guys had cracks at it last year. You had some cracks against top 10 teams this year. Do you make it a point of emphasis? Honestly, guys,
yeah.
And figure out what it means.
Yeah, no, I really, I believe everything happens to you for a reason. We were 5-3 last year, and we were playing Michigan State, and we lost. Then we lost the rest of them, right? And so we were chasing something. to me, we went out to Indiana. We were 5-1. I felt like the guys were maybe chasing something a little bit. That's why I said I didn't do a good enough job of having them in the right mindset. Indiana got after us. We came back last week. We were playing to play. Like, we were freed up to, like, hey, we gotta redeem our name. We gotta play for pride and play with heart and character, and that's what you saw. So I won't talk about anything other than that this week. You learned what it looks like against Ohio State. So carry it forward, and we'll do that each and every week.
I asked you last week about the defensive film against Indiana. It would be fair to ask you again this week. What did you see on film against Ohio State that popped out at you from your defense?
Well, I think it starts with you should start with stopping the run, but I think a very important thing, because I've talked about it a lot here, is if you want to run the football, you have to be good on third down. Because if it's 2nd and 7, you're probably going to run the ball to get it to 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, and you better be able to convert those. And for us to be 1 of 10, hold them to 1 of 10 on third down, to me, never allowed Coach Kelly and Coach Day to call multiple runs and try to wear us. Because really, when you watch what they do, they throw the ball on the perimeter, they try to wear you out, and then they come downhill and run it right at you. I thought our guys won third down, so we were able to get off the field, and that way we covered them. We did a good job. We also stopped the run, right? I mean, I think those two things go in hand. We stopped the run. We got off the field on third down. The key Achilles heel was we gave up, 3 big plays, and it's hard to win versus quality offense when you give up big plays, which goes back to kind of when you guys asked me about our offense. I say, hey, we're not creating enough big plays, right? So but I thought that's what the defense did well, and I think when you watch some of the guys play, I thought it was the best our defense looked, not the results. I thought it was the best some of our guys on defense have looked to this date. They played with a unique, just relentlessness that now they've put it on tape. So they have a standard now that they have to match.
UCLA is making this transition to a new conference. You did that right when you were from the MAC to the AAC. I mean, how challenging is it for a team like UCLA to make a transition into a league like the Big Ten?
Yeah, I mean, it's even me coming here last year, right? And it's your first time in the Big Ten, learning the structures, learning the personalities, learning the towns, learning the travel, learning the style of play, learning the weather. All those things matter, So, I think when you go into a new conference, you're kind of trying to figure out, hey, who wins in this conference? The unique thing here is I think we've all joined a new conference. Like I said, think about who we're playing this week. You guys have been covering Nebraska for a long time. Seeing a Nebraska-Ohio State game is pretty common, right? But having that followed up by, UCLA then USC is not common. So I think we all are just kind of in this period of trying to recognize, what the conference is, the effects of travel. Imagine had this been an 11 o'clock game for them, right? They'd be kicking off when I was at UCLA, we went and played Kansas. It was an 11 a.m. start. We had a 5 a.m. West Coast wake-up time. That was a challenge. So I think all those things are, unique. And then how it affects you in recruiting. I think when you go to different conferences, you're trying to figure out where you want to recruit, because when we talk to kids now in California, they know that they're probably going to have Nebraska go out to California every year. We're probably going to have a USC or UCLA game every year. And so that can be a cool thing in recruiting. So, we're trying to do that. I'm sure they're trying to figure out, USC is recruiting kids here in Lincoln, Omaha. So just changes kind of the whole footprint, I think, of everything. And then I think the whole thing, I think we're all seeing a whole different version of college football now moving forward, right? I think every team in the SEC has a loss. Though there's still 3 unbeatens in our league, or 2? Is there 2, 3? So that'll probably at some point change because some of those guys are playing each other. So I think just college football in general is changing.
Would you and Tony White have ever found each other if it wasn't for UCLA?
No. We didn't spend much time together there. That's what's unique about it. Just kind of he's just a really good dude. So when I met him, we kind of hung out a little bit. And then as he was in coaching, we actually reconnected a couple years ago because a player was leaving Baylor, transferring out, and they were going to take him. So we talked on the phone a bunch about it. And I just love what he's done as a coach. I love what he did at Syracuse. And I think the job he did last week is really a lot. Sometimes you talk about coordinators becoming head coaches. And being a coordinator and being a head coach are two completely different things. I've given those analogies before. I thought what he did last week to get his guys back and ready to play was head coach like. You know what I mean? Like that's what head coaches do. They've got to have their teams bounce back from adversity and not be complacent with success. And so I thought Tony did a great job in that. But yeah, it was good. You know, he was a good player, but really good coach in person.
With back-to-back road games in the bye weekend there too, it's going to be almost a month in between home games. Has it seemed like that long for you and the team?
Yeah, no doubt, it definitely has. You know, yeah, as I told you guys once before, when we're on the road, I tell you how much I love being on the road. When we're at home, but you know, like even like last game, like you know, like my kids didn't get to see it. You know, my daughters weren't there; they were at Husker volleyball. I like being here. I like our fans. I like our families. And at the end of that game, you go back in that game, we have 3 or 4 snap issues in that game that hurt us in crucial moments. Being at home with our crowd and the crowd noise and all that, it's really an advantage for us. I was hoping it was going to be windy and snowy, but whatever it is, it'll be great, and it'll be great to be back home.
Hey, Thomas Fedoni's maybe had 2 of his better games the last 2 weeks. More chemistry with Dylan. He's getting open. What do you?
Yeah, that's a great question. It kind of came to us like it came to me and it came to Sat like maybe 3-4 weeks ago and was like, what do I need to do? And he blocks. He's a complete tight end, but he wanted to catch the ball more. And I think when you see what he's done in the last couple weeks, I mean, we talked a lot about just focusing on like some certain aspects of route running, and then I think Sat's done a really good job of being like, hey, what's he great at? And it's just got such great long speed, getting him down the field, but he also can run out of breaks. And so, he won in man last week, on the hook route against Indiana on 3rd and 8 on the goal line, right? And I think it's been showing up in practice. So I think Dylan has a lot of confidence in him. That route, that was man. That route last week was man. He won in man. He ran an option route, saw zone, sat it down. So I just think he's a relentless guy in terms of wanting to be great. He's always seeking to improve. And I think giving him a couple specific things like, hey, let's work on this. Then he's done that. I think Dylan feels it. I think the coaches feel it, and so now they're always trying to get him, involved. And the thing is when you start catching the football as a tight end, they start trying to take you away. And so he ran through that contact last week and made a great play, and hopefully we can get him a couple more things.
And then Lloyd, I know that maybe the numbers aren't quite there yet, but you guys are using him in some different situations. How have you seen him progress in his sophomore year?
Yeah, I think Jalen's an excellent receiver. Had the hamstring in the summer and in fall camp. Missed some time. I think he's really got a good connection now. You go back to that play even on the goal line. Like when to put the ball in his hands. And he gets hit at the 4. He drags it down to the 1.5 yard line. I think you'll see him just continue to emerge. I don't not say develop, emerge. Get more and more opportunities. We have some guys on the scout team that are Malachi and Quinn Clark and Isaiah McMorris and those guys. They're developing. This is the kind of year we have to take advantage. We lost Barrett Liebentritt for the year. Starting fullback, who's been such a key part of our short yardage and goal line game. So we had to go over on the touchdown. Unfortunately, on the one we got stopped, but also on the one we scored. Elijah Judy and Ty Robinson had to step out there and play fullback for us. So this is a time of year where guys, we took Caleb Benning on the road this week. We took Braylon Pruitt on the road this week. We took Donovan Jones, guys who we feel like are really emerging. Amari Sanders. This is the time where some of those guys, their 4-game red shirts are kind of available to you now, and so you might see some of those guys stepping into some roles.
What's the injury for Barrett?
He broke a bone in his back. Yeah. Really, almost one of the best blocks I think I've ever seen. And he's been like I said, he's been a key part of what we do, and so he'll be out. I think it's like 6 to 8 weeks. So it's not like life. I mean, he'll be fine, but he'll miss the season.
And what was the response from the team to your philosophical comments after the game?
Yeah, I didn't talk to them about that.
No, I didn't know if they.
No, I haven't talked. Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, I have a really, I think, close relationship with most of the guys, and most of my conversations with them are kind of like one-on-one, and I didn't really bring that up. More like, my question. I will share this with you. My question to all the guys has been, well, what did you learn this past week? And I think a lot of them learned that, hey, we belong. We can play with anybody when we do X, Y, and Z. And then my second question is like, well, then what happened 2 weeks ago? And I think the one thing we're learning is, and it's what I know. A lot of things I take. I know I've said this all. Don't play the logos. Indiana's an elite team, And Ohio State, when we knew it was Ohio State, we had a chance to play them, right? So don't play the logo, and just go play the guys. And I know our guys know that sometimes they have to go through this to gain the confidence to recognize that, like, hey, I played really well against Ohio State. I'm a good player. I should carry that forward. So I don't know about you guys. You guys have kids. I don't know if you tell your kids. I don't know how often they listen to you. My son's a freshman. I don't know how often he listens to me. Sometimes young people have to do it themselves before they decide, okay, this is true. And so we're in that stage, and we didn't panic after Indiana. We're not going to panic now. We're going to try to go beat UCLA this week, 1-0.
So take the logos off. You played them both back-to-back weeks. Which team do you find more challenging?
You can't get me to answer that one. That's a heck of a try.